All right, everyone, welcome in. We are here for Pick and Troll episode number 11, coming to you live with Rex right around 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, the 29th. We got a good episode for you. A lot of good matchups going on, ACC, Big Ten, SEC matchups. So we'll be sure to touch on a lot of those. So we'll go ahead and get started here. How are you doing, Rex?
Good. We got a good slate today because that Colorado-Arizona game ended up being a little bit of not what I was hoping for. The Maryland win, though, was pretty great.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to kind of touch on that one a little bit. Do you find that to be an upset or no? Because it's a team that's very close to being ranked versus a ranked team.
I would say it's definitely an upset because Maryland has shown that they're going to be a nice mid Big Ten team. Yeah. Wisconsin at home can't be losing that one. And Maryland, I mean, they came to life in the second half of their last game. So they finally put like a full one together last night, which is, I think, a bigger takeaway for Maryland than it is Wisconsin. Because Wisconsin, we've said this before, they're just going to go on those scoring droughts. Yeah. And last night they hit a bad one and another bad time where teams are eventually just going to catch with Wisconsin if they continually do that 4-minute streak without scoring a bucket.
Yep, absolutely. And what about the other game, the other big upset, the drubbing by Minnesota?
Is that one? I don't know. Is that one an upset?
I don't think it's an upset. I think the final score is an upset. I don't think Minnesota in itself winning, but Minnesota just absolutely routing Michigan State is quite the box score.
Well, did Michigan State ever lead in that game?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, so that's where it's kind of more where Minnesota, they kind of proved it and showed it against Iowa, and then they just gave it all to this Michigan State team because I know we're going to talk about state later, but just keep it more Minnesota related. I mean, it's still Carr, Johnson, and Robbins. Other than that, the other pieces are nice, but I mean, Carr only had 19, and they still won convincingly. So I think that's just more on Michigan State, where we'll get to them later.
Absolutely. And yes, we certainly will be sure to touch on that. That is going to be alluded to later in the episode. Just some quick, what we like to do with our recaps. We got ballers of the night. So we have Cam Krutwig out of the Fighting Sister Jeans. Put up 22 points, 9 boards, and 7 assists. He was the closest to a triple-double last night. And then following when it doesn't matter, Obadiah Noel for Lowell. I looked him up. He is not related to Nerlens. He's actually from Mississippi or something, whereas Nerlens Noel was from Massachusetts. He scored 29 points. So putting up 29 points and then losing effort there. And then a couple things I wanted to mention, what I am calling my eyes on ouchies. Chris Likes and Cam McGusty for Miami are both going to be game time decisions, as well as Jalen Suggs is a game time decision for Dixie State. Don't think that quite puts Gonzaga on upset alert, but something certainly worth mentioning, as I know he's been struggling with what I believe is a leg injury of some type.
Yeah, that 6-point spread on the U is real, I wouldn't say questionable, but with Likes and McGusty both as game time decisions, you're just buying into that U number, hoping that they're both ruled in, because then you'll get a 3. If you don't think they're going to be played today, or if you just want to hope that you think it's going to go the opposite way, buy the Vodtech number now, because it will move a little bit, but it won't just as much as them being in.
Correct. I agree. And then just recapping on the model. Model is at 52.5%. We are 273, 245, and 11 on all our sides. And then the multi-point edges are sitting at 54%, 102, 86, and 2.
Did we really get UC Irvine slogan or mantra in the comments as the first one for today?
We did.
Man, that's all right. That team's a lot better than United, so at least root for a good one like the Zoots and not the Red Devils.
Slow news day, as I say. But that actually was a nice little model victory. We did have UC Irvine. That was projected with them being about -2. Game closed around a pick. So we were able to pick that one up there. So nice play out of the Anteaters there last night.
Yeah, so that was a team that got the double sweep on the games too, right?
Yep.
I know you love dabbling in those games. Right before we get into those picks, I don't know what to do on those. My brain goes so many different ways just because they played last night. That
I know.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look into coaching ratings and different things like that. But
yeah,
those games put my head on a swivel, and I have no idea what to do there.
Yeah, exactly. It's, do you ride the team that won last night, and that, especially if it's a bigger margin of victory, do you think they're going to go back out there and beat them by that many again, or is the other team going to have something more to play for? There's a lot to look into, and it's certainly one of the more interesting things that has come out of the season. But we're going to go ahead and get started in on our picks here. As always, if you have anything you want us to take a look at, please hop in and chime in the comments. You can do that from YouTube as well as Periscope, maybe even Facebook too. We up on Facebook? We are.
Yep.
So you can do that from any of those three platforms at breakdown_sports on Twitter. So that covers Twitter. YouTube, you can just find our channel Breakdown Sports, and then Facebook, The Breakdown. And you can do a search for us there. So going ahead and jumping into the picks that we have today, I currently have 4 plays. I share 1 with Rex, and then Rex has 2 plays. So because I am, as always, the volume guy here at Pick and Troll, I'm going to go ahead and lead it off. First game that I'm looking at here is LSU versus Texas A&M. Nice little SEC matchup we've got going on. Side that I have in this is LSU -6.5, -105. I grabbed this right as Javonte Smart news was breaking. The news from him being able to play moved the line from about 6.5 up to 7.5 last I checked. Model projection is at 9. So I do like that number there. I'd like it up to about a 7.5. Maybe even if you can get a -8 at an even number, I think that's a really good look. I think that a lot separates these teams. Big issue that LSU has had this year is holding teams to low scoring and not allowing them to continue to come back into the game. They've had some pretty poor matchups out there. However, I think that this is a good matchup for LSU. LSU's defense, one of their few areas they're very sound in, is the 3-point defending in the perimeter, and that is where Texas A&M likes to shoot a lot of their shots, but they're only hitting 33%. They're not a great offensive team, Texas A&M. They play extremely slow. They like to burn down the play clock, and they do end up shooting a lot from the perimeter. That's where LSU is strong. So that, in addition to just how well this LSU team has played on offense, is really what I like about this. They're one of the most efficient teams on offense. They shoot the 2 extremely well. They have no problem there. They even are willing to take some of those further 2s that people in this analytical age in basketball like to frown upon. But they're also a great 3-point team. So they're great around the perimeter. They've got some size. They have no problem with rebounding. And that is basically why I'm taking LSU -6.5.
So when you look at like the advanced stats here, Texas A&M's defense is like ranked considerably higher than LSU's, but when you dive into each of the like individual areas, 2-point defense is the only one that they like are extremely higher than them on. So I'm thinking that them playing at the 286 pace is what really bumps up the defense, because I mean, and they create turnovers at a pretty crazy rate. So like those are the 2 areas that Texas A&M, I think it's their biggest bump from the defense, but definitely getting there at the 6 is where the model loved to play. Now when it's closer to the market, it thinks it's a little bit more spot on. I still think there could be the double-digit win here, but with LSU, they just need to put this Texas A&M team away when they get the shot in this game. It's what LSU has lacked, where they'll be up at 10 or 15 points and they'll let them get back to 5, and then they'll somehow win by just 8. So that's where I think the 6 is the right number here. And yeah, you just got to hope Cam Thomas just keeps balling, and he hasn't been missing so far. So let's see if you can keep that hot streak going.
Yeah, this is the first SEC matchup for either of these 2 teams, and neither of these teams have had a big victory yet. LSU lost to St. Louis. And then they've beat a lot of unnoteworthy teams. And Texas A&M lost to TCU, which is not good. And then the only team they were really able to beat of note is Wofford. But this is not my high school Wofford. This is 29-year-old Jordan Wofford. So they're not quite the same team that we saw them in the tournament for that couple of years where they were really explosive.
All right. Do you want to give your one more that you have solo? Then we just break down the ones that we share. Or should I just go for one of them?
Yes, no, I'll go ahead. Second one that I am looking at here, let me get it pulled up. I'll just close that real quick. Second one that I'm looking at is Ole Miss, Alabama. I was able to grab Ole Miss at a +2 even money. Market is still around 1.5, 2, laying 2 with -110, -115 juice. For me, the projection on this is Ole Miss plus a half point, so about a half-point dog. And I just think that the Ole Miss defense is too much for Alabama to really overcome. Ole Miss has one of the toughest defenses in college basketball. They certainly they know how to play well. They play well defending virtually everywhere except for around the perimeter. They force a ton of turnovers. I think they're one of the top 5 turnover teams in the country. And their offense is about even. So it's kind of a wash there in terms of their offense versus Alabama's defense. There's not any considerable edges there. Ole Miss does have a nice little size advantage, so they do like to score the ball from inside. They do like to play off of turnovers because they do force those oftentimes. So they're looking for those close range buckets. That's something that they do very well. And with their size and their physicality, I think that lines up well for them in this matchup.
Yeah, in this game, Bama doesn't go deep, but their top 5 that they have is it's top SEC caliber with Shackelford, Jones, Petty, Quinterly, and Bruner. That's a solid starting 5, but Ole Miss is just I kind of want to call them Clemson light just because of the way that their defense plays, but that's really disrespecting Clemson's defense. But yeah, Kermit's guys are just balling out right now. They're going to play extremely not fast, so they're going to be the ones where in a decent amount of our games we have a little bit of a tempo mismatch. So this is where if Ole Miss gets Bama to play that half-court offense, they've shown that they could do it for small stretches against Furman, but I think that's just a talent discrepancy there. So it wasn't any convincing sets. It was a lot of pick and rolls or one-man isolation creating. So that's where Ole Miss, who has the bodies that can do it, they are a top 10 defense, but even though I still think Clemson is light years ahead of them. So that's where Ole Miss you're getting the +2 here. I know there's a little line movement on this one where I think it opened closer to a pick. So it's strange to see that it moved towards Bama's side because I definitely would be playing Ole Miss in this spot and not laying it with Bama.
I'm looking around. Yep, it is at 2 right now. 2 -110. So it's even on both sides on Bookmaker. But yeah, it opened at 1.5. It did see some early movements. It got moved down to 1, moved down to about a half point in favor of Bama before coming back up. So we'll have to see what comes down in that game. But if you want to go ahead and take one of the 2 games that we share, we have the same play on one game, and then we have similar thought process, but 2 different bets on the other.
Yeah, I was just looking at one thing on Bart for the Bama defensive share for dunks. Is no one dunking on them, or is everybody dunking on Bama? Because it's red with the 9.1.
Everyone's dunking on Bama. They're giving up almost 10% of their possessions are ending in dunks.
Yeah,
of 2-point attempts. Yeah, that's not really good.
No, so that was the one part where I was digging into to see who's going to be finishing at the rim. But I just think that's from their 28th tempo a little bit more than anything else because you can catch Bama in transition pretty bad.
Yep, and I think that's probably what it is, where teams are then able to take it the other way. And I think that's something Ole Miss does very well. They're generating turnovers on almost 30% of their possessions.
Yep, so let's go to the game where we both have a play on it, but we basically agree, but we're playing it in 2 separate ways a little bit. Yep. So let's get to Florida State versus Clemson. So this game originally opened at 3.5. It's now sitting at 1.5 for Clemson. It's still as a favorite, and that's the side I'm laying here. I'm going to lay the minus 1.5 at minus 105. And I just think the 3.5 line was the correct one for this game. Mm-hmm. Florida State at home, gangbusters. On the road, they shrink a little bit and shrivel, but this is where going into Clemson, I know there's no true home court advantage, but Clemson has been one that's shown where they'll get the big wins on the road. Florida State is the ranked team here, but I think Clemson's just barely missing it. So
they are.
So that's where I think it's truly that Clemson should be the favorites here. And this is where Clemson, there's only like 40 teams that play slower than them. And they have the 28th most efficient defense. So this is where our field goal percentage, the second most overall. So this is where if they get Florida State to play in that half-court game where they've shown that Scotty Barnes, not the best half-court player. He's very solid. He can create his own shot at some points. But over the past 2 games, it's been a little bit rough for them where Scotty Barnes has scored 14 points in the last 2. When Florida State has played more of like, I guess, the top competition. I mean, they only have 1 loss, but they're starting to struggle to score a little bit more. And this is the first time where they're going to see the best defense of the entire season. When Clemson and UVA play, I am not going to be tuning into that game. I can just tell you that now, because this game, I think, is going to be not the best offensive showing that we will ever see here. One big advantage that Clemson does have, even though they do play in the half court, they're still putting up 43% of their shots from deep. They're shooting at a 34%, so they're right on the average mark. But Florida State is the 241st worst defense against defending the 3. So that's where Clemson, if they can get in a rhythm and get that hot, that's where I really like them to pull it away and win by like 7 or 8. But my 2 concerns for where Clemson could potentially get hit is in the last game they're against UVA, they did foul a little much, so their free throw rate on defense did start to creep up a little bit, and Florida State lives at the line. So in the half-court play, Clemson just has to be disciplined, leave them to the one shot, because Florida State's going to hit the boards hard because they're huge. No team is ever going to have the size or match up with the size that they have, maybe other than Gonzaga. But that's where Clemson, as long as they play clinical on defense, finish out the possessions, and clean the boards, they should probably get an 8-point win here. So that's why I think the minus 1.5 is nice.
Yep. So you pretty much covered the full handicap on that. The model projection on this was about a -3 in terms of Clemson. So yeah, I really like your side there. You did mention about Florida State's ability to get to the free throw line, which is something that's really big for them, but they aren't a great free throw percentage team. They're under 70% on the year. So they're sitting relatively average. So although they're getting to the line a lot, and a lot of it is based off their ability on the glass, on the offensive rebounds. They get a lot of those balls off the glass and then immediately go up and draw the foul. With them only hitting 70% of their shots, I don't think that is a good. It's tough for them because they're going there a lot, but they're not making the most of those opportunities. The side I am playing in this is the Florida State under. I got it at 64.5, -108. So as you mentioned, the Clemson clinical defense, I like that. Clemson has only allowed 2 teams to score over 64 this season. You have Virginia Tech, and then you have Purdue. So those are 2 teams that play a very different style than Florida State. Virginia Tech is just banging threes, or attempting to. That's what they really do. And Purdue has a lot of bodies to play in the interior, as well as they've always been a great 3-point shooting team. So I'm taking Florida State under 64.5. I'm not going to carry this one on any longer because you covered the whole game.
Yeah, that's the only one where the late game fouling could just make it into pretty sweaty, because this game could easily end in the 50s, and that's where it's probably going to be sweaty with the 1 point, because if you got a 50, both teams scoring in the 50s, it's going to be close.
Yeah. Going back to your Clemson, who do you say? Clemson UVA. Set a line on that.
For the spread or for the total?
Spread. Total.
Like 116.
Let me see real quickly. Let me see if I can pull up what Eric Haslam would make it. So we're looking at Clemson. Let's see. Clemson. This is great television right here. Sure, everyone's fucking riveted watching me stare at my screen. Virginia. Yeah, he has that. Wow, spot on. He has that at a 115.
Damn. That's where just Vegas just hired me to be your bookmaker. This is all the top of the head. I don't need to look at any of your computer models.
Yeah, he has a 115 on the neutral court, and it's 114 if Clemson is home, and if Clemson is on the road, it's 116. So nice.
Yeah, so let's get into the one that we share. Third biggest edge on the model. So yeah, we can let you know what the other biggest edges are. So hit us up in the chat if you want to hear what the two ones that beat it. You're not going to be backing the most beautiful teams there, so you'll be watching gross basketball. But here, Memphis versus South Florida, we're going to take the +10. It's currently sitting at 9.5. Would still take that. We found a book that had a +10 available, so got to get that in case we push there. And with Memphis versus South Florida, this one you might have to hold your nose a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be too bad because when Memphis, other than their first game of the season against St. Mary's, if they play, because South Florida is like right at the 100 mark barometer from KP or from Bart Torvik, and anytime Memphis, other than St. Mary's, has played a team there, they've broken 60 once, and they got to 71 against Auburn. Both of these teams are very solid on defense, so we could see another low-scoring game, but I think this one does get into the 60s, if not 70s, where South Florida, they're just going to be able to have to put up points against Memphis's defense. Memphis still has a top 10 defense. I think that's completely, I wouldn't say overrated yet, but I don't know. I only holding Tulsa, I guess, to 56 points is good and all, but you only put up 49 in the same point. And this is another battle of the tempo where Memphis is playing at the 11th fastest pace. South Florida is playing at 2:49. So South Florida knows where if they're going to try to run with Memphis, that just completely takes away what Yetna does his best, because Yetna is good in the open court, but you're going to kill him. And that's where you're going to rely on Justin Brown and David Collins too much. Those three players Brown and Yetna rank higher than in replacement above the mean than everyone does in Memphis. And that's where Landers Nolley has been. I can't even say their only consistent player because he's gone to sleep some games too. Both of these teams, it's their first day back from break. So we're going to have to see who comes out sleepy if someone potentially does here. And I don't want to knock off Penny yet, but 5-4 so far this season, expecting to be a lot higher. And that's where the team's definitely not checking out. They just have too much talent here. I just don't think they should be 10-point favorites. The 6.5 to 7 seem completely accurate. But if I'm going to get 3 points at the edge where both of these offenses rank right around the same area, if not South Florida's being better. Memphis has had a sturdier defense so far, but I don't think it's something that South Florida will have trouble breaking. If anything, South Florida can't go huge because they only have one guy that's like taller than 6'10". They have one guy taller than 6'10" that's in the rotation, and Durr. And he could be the game changer for them because Memphis does not like to play against big teams. Their biggest guy that they like to use in the rotation is Cisse, and he's still extremely raw. He was top 10 to top 15 talent as a recruit, but you can just see his rawness. He was playing against so much weaker talent that once he's getting on the court, teams can neutralize him pretty easily. So the battle of Nolley versus Yetna is going to be a great matchup. It's going to be something I'm dying to watch. I believe this game got ESPN2. So if you want to come sweat a +10 with Jordan and I, that's why we're going to back South Florida, hoping that their offense can just come through against a defense that I still think is a little overhyped.
Yeah, if they don't run that Durr and Yetna lineup for essentially the entire game, I'm going to be pissed because those two have such a big advantage over what Memphis has, as you alluded to. Memphis did recently get back DeAndre Williams. They get him rather. He was waiting for a waiver eligibility. He's only played 2 games. He's the good player from Evansville last year. You had mentioned worrying about which team might come out sleepy, and I would describe Memphis as a sleepy team in general. I feel like I show that they're like one of the top 10 tempo offenses, but when you watch them, it certainly doesn't feel like that unless they're getting the ball off a turnover. They don't seem to do a lot. They seem like they're in a hurry to get nowhere when I watch them, because it's not like they're lighting up the scoreboard. They're struggling as any team, any top 100 team, especially a team that's top 100 in defense, and any team that provides any type of size advantage over them is where they really have struggled. So I'm with you on USF plus 10. The model edge was 6.5. So we've got 3.5 points on that. Certainly would play. Is it still at? It's at what, 9.5 now?
Yeah, you can buy the 10 for minus 115.
I mean, I would still play a 9.5. If you can get a 9.5 and you don't want to pay 10 cents to get it up to 10, absolutely play the 9.5. I don't think this is a double-digit scoring deficit game. And one thing that you had mentioned is for it to become a 10-point scoring margin, that Memphis is going to have to live at the free throw line. And they're not a good free throw team. They are shooting, write it down. They're shooting 62% from the line. So they are a below average free throw team in terms of how they're shooting. And USF is just a good profile of a team that will do well against Memphis between their solid defense, their great rebounding, and they just need to score. As long as they're able to keep pace, this should not be an issue for this. Plus 10 should cash pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that I didn't watch the Memphis Tulsa game where they lost 56-49, because I think I would just put too much stupid money on this game. Yeah, it's probably the game right before break. So, and Tulsa, they rank right around what South Florida does. So that's where if you get another weird low result, I can see that. But Memphis's offense, they still have yet to hit more than 10 threes in a game, and they're attempting close to 20. I mean, I know shooting 50% would be wild. Their best was 9 for 20 against Western Kentucky, where they lost, and their tempo got helped out extremely because they played Mississippi Valley State and put up 94-57. So that's a team that I don't know, that their style will just run with anyone. So they had that nice 3-game stretch which bumped it up, but then you saw them play Auburn, Tulane, and Tulsa. All of those were within 10 if they did win that. They lost 2 of them outright. So this is where I think South Florida hangs around. I'm confident in it, but I would like to – 10's still good, so that's where at the 3-point edge, it's solid.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the plays that we have for today. We can go ahead and jump into a troll. Let's see, were there any comments? Nope, just ... So we can go ahead and jump into.
I didn't know that's the sound that an anteater makes is a zot.
Me either. I mean, I might have to go down a YouTube wormhole after this to watch some anteater sound videos. Maybe there's like anteater ASMR. Well, that might be something that's popular on YouTube right now. But let's go ahead and get into the trolls. First team that I'm going to bring up here is Michigan State. Michigan State just suffered their 3rd consecutive loss in big play. So they are dogs are going nuts. They're 0-3 to start their conference play. It's the first time since 2001, 2002 that they have started 0-3. The losses are to good teams, so it's not like they're necessarily huge upsets. However, as I mentioned, the one last night, that's the result, the box score, that is a big upset. So certainly something to be worried about. I think that Michigan State, I sort of viewed them as a team closer towards the middle of the Big Ten. I did not think they were going to be one of the top teams, but for them to have lost 3 straight, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Minnesota, are they on upset alert for basketball on Saturday?
Oh my God, don't tell me that. Oh, they're on the road too? Shit, that's going to be like a 3-point spread, man.
Yeah, probably. And everything in our numbers will be saying to bet Michigan State, and we're going to be talking ourselves off it.
I mean, this team with Michigan State right now, it's not that I don't like the guys. It's just the last 3 games, I want to say they got away from what they were doing. It's just Izzo just is in a weird slump, which we usually never see Izzo have. I think it's just from him not having that dominant point guard and someone to run his offense that he likes. Rocket Watts is a solid player, but we've seen when teams just key in and completely stop him, the Michigan State offense becomes very less efficient. Aaron Henry and Hauser are their other two nice pieces. I mean, Langford's good as well, but it's just no one there is maybe he'll figure it out and get that Michigan State team that Izzo usually does find down the stretch. But as of right now, it's not looking too hot for them to go above 500 in conference play, which I don't know when the last time Izzo's squad did that. They just need Rocket Watts to – I mean, he's assisting well, but he just can't shoot for anything right now. No one on that team is hitting from deep other than – who's that one guy? Gabe Brown. He's the only one that can hit right now. And on the defensive side, teams are just nailing them from three at a pretty bad rate, and they're fouling like crazy. So when you're playing undisciplined on defense, giving up threes and just not having that dominant point guard that they had at the beginning of the season, but you caught Duke, you caught Notre Dame, so those are both solid wins. They'll carry some weight and could potentially get them into the tournament, because Steven was saying that we could see some close to 500 teams make the tourney in the Big Ten, which I would think would be wild.
So KenPom currently has Michigan State ranked at 49th. Offensive efficiency is 63, defensive is 71, and they're playing the 45th fastest tempo in the nation. What do you think their projected conference record is? So they're 0-3 right now. So over 20 games, what do you think they're going to do for the last 17?
I mean, you would have to hope you can go 10-7, but given how this team started, I think that's kind of out of the picture, because I don't know, 10-7 would be wild for them to finish right at 500. So that's where I think they might go 8-8 for the rest of the way, which would give them not a great conference record for them.
Yeah. KenPom has them at 7-13, so 7-10 down the stretch. I'm just looking at where they rank. They are behind every Big Ten team per KenPom, except for Nebraska. Nebraska is 115. Penn State is 54. Northwestern is 53, and then Michigan State is 49. That's tough. They're behind.
Maryland should be right there, right up.
Yeah, there. Maryland's at 40.
Then Purdue. I mean, it's just a big blob from like 30 to 50. You find like 8 Big Ten teams.
Yeah, KenPom's a little bit more bullish on the Big Ten than probably the other projections are, because he has Michigan at 15th, and I, as a Michigan fan, do not think Michigan is the 15th best team in the nation.
No, I think it's where the strength of schedule is going to get them bumped up from playing all these high-ranked teams that we are going to see a potentially fringe team make it in there on the bubble over Wofford if they don't win their conference, or over Winthrop. Winthrop's got to be our spot that we got to eye up, because that team is nice.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. But that's all we have for today's episode. So able to get it done in just about 30 minutes. You got any other? Actually, do you have any trolls before we close it out?
Nah, no one too hard to troll. Haven't seen anything too nuts in the past few days that's worth ragging on people for.
Yeah. I mean, like we mentioned at the top, Michigan State loses to a fairly solid team, and it wouldn't be such a big deal if they didn't lose by 20, 25 points, whatever it was. And then Wisconsin losing to – who did Wisconsin just lose to?
Maryland.
That's not a huge upset, although Wisconsin is ranked very high. But
I can tell you a troll that's going to come is probably going to be Washington State.
Why is that?
They're still undefeated. I think they have like the 313th hardest strength of schedule. So once they catch the first Pac-12, or they did beat Oregon State so far in the Pac-12, but I think they're going to get caught hard one game soon.
How many
that's a little foreshadowing
undefeated teams are there?
Arkansas is one of them that's pretty legit so far. Drake is sitting at 11-0.
Yeah, I did Drake.
Georgia is sitting at 8-0. I think they're going to get caught hard too. So that's a potential troll because Crean's boys are actually showing up for once. And then I think Gonzaga kind of rounds it out with all your notable ones.
Yeah.
And Baylor. Sorry, Baylor.
Baylor, yeah. But all right. Well, we have a good show for today. Real quickly, I will recap my 4 plays, and then Rex will recap his 2. So just so anyone tuning in late or just catching the end of this, you are able to fast forward to this point. LSU minus 6.5, minus 105. Market currently at 7.5. I would take it there. I wouldn't necessarily take it at 8 unless I could get a even money bet. Ole Miss plus 2. I got that at even. Market is sitting at 1.5, 2. The 2 is minus 110. I certainly would play that. Projection is Ole Miss plus a half point. I'm playing the Florida State team total under 64.5 at minus 108. Should be somewhere right around there. I would not play it below like 63. Anything below that does not work for me. And then my final bet, which I do share with Rex, is USF plus 10, minus 110. Market sitting at 9.5, and projection is right around 7.
Yep. I'm rolling with USF plus 10, minus 110, then Clemson minus 1.5, minus 105.
Great. So that is today's episode. Quickly looking ahead, let's see what the schedule looks like tomorrow, as we did possibly. Oh, we got good matchups.
Tomorrow and Thursday, we got very good ones. So we'll have to go both days possibly.
Boy, don't threaten me to a good time. And then Saturday is what did I see?
Saturday? I don't know, man. Saturday's the day after New Year's, so we're pretty good.
Yeah. No, Saturday, Eric Haslam said there's currently 125 scheduled D1 games, which is incredible. It's going to be the biggest slate of the season, so we're right back in the thick of it. That'll be
South Carolina comes back that day, finally.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I forgot they've been out. And Villanova just shut down, I saw.
Poor Villanova.
Yeah. Jay Wright caught the bug.
Hang out with the St. Joe soccer girls again.
That's it for today's episode. On behalf of Rex, I am Jordan, signing off from the Breakdown Sports. This is episode 11 of Pick and Troll. Good luck out there today, and we'll be back probably tomorrow and Thursday.
See you, fellas.